everyone. We're here to celebrate .NET 10 release, which happened a week ago. It came with a lot of exciting updates, new SDK capabilities, new C# 14 improvements, ASP.NET Core, of course, performance improvements, and a lot of other things. So we got new Visual Studio. So let's dive and explore what we got. And I think we will start from you, Alexander, and you will guide us through the new language capabilities.
Sure, I'll try at least.
Through a lot of file-based apps.
Okay, suppose that you can see my screen now, right?
Yep.
Yeah, we can.
Cool.
2026 Cider preview.
Yeah, let me remove this Teams top bar into another screen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so actually it is not a file-based apps. I decided to convert them back into just usual project, but they can be easily converted back to file-based apps. And I would like to start from this one. So in the C# 14 we have one more keyword. It is a field, right? So what is it? Now you don't need to create a property for your field for your property. So now you can use just a field keyword and it will play the role. It of course it can be used in both in getter and setters, but it will just simplify decrease the amount of code that you are writing. Especially it will be useful for people who is writing code for WPF and VVM pattern or Avalonia, doesn't matter. So it will simplify, it will minify the amount of code that they are writing. And one more thing about this feature, it is that it kind of break and change feature, because nothing restricts you to have this property in the past. So, and if you enable .NET 10 and try to use this new feature, it can go with the unexpected behavior. So how to resolve this? First of all, before migrating or using this, you can just simply rename all your fields, right, with a different name. And another way it is use this before this. In this case, it will be using the property, not keyword, it will be using the actual field from your class. Or go with this. You can add in the beginning of this name. The result will be the same. Next things, implicit span conversion. So now array can be implicitly converted into span. No need to call as span explicitly. And another thing, span can be automatically converted to read-only if the read-only access is kind of required in a specific situation. So the example you can see here. Small feature, but I suppose it is useful. At least again, you don't need to see this annoying.
Yeah, it's almost for free.
So.
It's just here.
Yep.
Looks small, nice, but it already broke a lot of code in its framework core because they rely on reflection and expression generation. They had to do some changes, both in runtime and EF core, to make it compatible with this.
Yeah, this is I did know. Small feature we can broke. It's different one.
Yeah, because it chooses different overload method.
Yeah.
Runtime.
Yeah.
Oh, do they have the same method? Already they have the same method, right?
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, moving on. Next feature is nameof. So now nameof supports unbounded generic types. So you can simply write nameof and provide some generic type, and as a result, you have the name of the type without this angle brackets. It works for any generic type, list, dictionary, or iCompare, for example. When it be useful, for myself, I found that it is will be useful when you are constructing error and you need to specify the area, not concrete a type. It will be useful in this, at least for me. Probably it will be useful in some other areas. Now conditional assignment. What is it? So let's look at this example. We have a few objects, right? And one of them already created. It is not now. Another one is just a null object. And imagine we need to create inside this object, we need to create another one current order, right? And how did we do this in the past? Of course, it is still possible, but we have to explicitly check for now that this object is not null, and then we can assign it. So now we don't need it. We can easily use this else operator or another conditional access operator, and now it allows us to do assignment, which was not possible in the past. And of course, it will work only in the case if this object is null, right? So in the first situation for active, it will not create new order for current order. For a missing, for a missing it will not create. For active, it will create new object, right? Looks kind of not bad, but if you look into this code, it will be not clear what it actually does, at least from my perspective. Will it create new one or will not? What do you think?
Well, there is an attempt, and the intention of the whole language development is to make things that required a lot of lines of code previously to collapse them into smaller ones.
Yeah.
So the direction is like that, and seems like it's just because to become to compete with other programming languages. I think this is why they are doing that.
I remember that when you'll go ahead, sorry.
I mean, C# is not as scientific anymore. It's just modern, I would say. The word that I choose is it's just trying to be modern.
Out of
I
curiosity,
remember that in the past I was catch myself that writing code I was catch myself that I was trying to do the same thing in the past a couple of times. I suppose you also did
Yes,
it.
yeah.
And I was
Exactly. I
thinking,
thought it's
why it is
available.
not possible? Yeah.
I thought it's available for
Yeah.
many years already. Yeah. Confusing, definitely. Confusing.
out of curiosity, is it supported for fields as well or only for properties?
For fields as well.
I mean, you can make filters public, just access it. Let's try.
Okay, so just remove getter. Yeah, I think you can just, or we can just name it somehow. Yeah. Yeah, it works.
Oh, nice.
Cool.
And by the way, I suppose that now we have a bunch of analyzers and code fixers and rules for this new feature and for previous feature with unbound generic types, and you can forbid or enforce it globally and fix globally in your solutions.
So by default, it didn't suggest me to convert into this version. So
probably it's a setting on SDK level for current version.
Or they broke.
Oh no, it does. Sorry, I was trying in the past. Maybe it is not IntelliSense. Maybe it just no.
I think it's Alexander. To be honest, I think it's because of your color schema, and it's just hard to notice.
Right.
Okay. I have the same, by the way.
Okay, moving on. Partial members. So in the C#14, C#14 extends the amount of members that can be partial, and now the constructor and events, they can be partial. A simple example, I have a partial class status broadcaster, and it has a partial constructor, right? Sorry, I have to show it you firstly here. It has a partial constructor and it has a partial status changed event. And in another part of this partial class, we kind of continues those partial constructor and event. I was thinking how it would be useful. Unfortunately, I didn't find example from real life when I can use it.
I think it might be useful for library authors who use source generators, so they can generate partial implementation of it.
Absolutely
yeah,
right.
maybe.
Yeah. So this is like all these partials. It's a common practice when you have a tool that generates a bunch of code, and they want to have a kind of extra extra extension spaces for you, so you can, for example, implement particular partial methods that are generated as just partials by this tool, and you can extend the particular class that was generated by source generator or by just regular tools that generate the code, like reverse engineering if core power tools, for example. Yeah.
Yes, variant, right.
And by the way, in C# 13, they introduced partial properties, if I remember correctly, but they introduced it only under preview feature flag. Is it finally in globally available status now or not? Because I didn't see it in any release notes.
I didn't see it. We can try. Why not?
How to try partial property? What would be the syntaxes?
I don't know. I suppose the same.
Partial.
Yeah, it seems like partial event is just evolution of partial properties.
Property implementation.
Okay. It's not complaining that you're not using.
No, I mean, so in another class, probably you need to try to implement. Well,
implement it in your another part without partial modifier.
Is the for example,
no, Volodya, you always need to.
No, this is strange. Partial needs to be.
Partial need to be.
Partial. How did they call it?
Yeah. And now try to put like empty getter and setter.
With empty braces.
Yeah.
With empty braces? What do you mean?
Instead of semicolon.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't get. What do you mean?
Try to put get and then arrow, and 0, just return 0. And in the setter, just make it empty.
Yield.
Okay.
Oh, value.
Okay.
Semicolon.
Oh, it works.
Yeah.
It's not complaining about not use of preview feature, so it was released actually.
It works.
That's interesting.
Okay. Partial properties are also available for us.
Maybe it is because also using the Visual Studio Preview. Not sure.
Oh, this is the setting on your just proj level, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Next thing is it is regarding the Lambda modifier. So in the past, in the Lambda, we had to concretely specify the types of parameters, right? In the C#14, we can remove all types from Lambda, and it will be able to figure out it itself. So, also not bad. Why not? Maybe from time to time not so clear, because if you will specify, for example, only this one, sample string, it doesn't mean you you don't need to specify another one. So if you started to specifying, you need to specify for all parameters. If you are not, you have to remove it from all parameters too. Not bad, why not?
This feature reminds me of Rust, when it can infer a lot of type information from context.
Yeah, and you have to guess what is this type.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. So C# is trying to be modern. So they get a lot of ideas from other programming languages.
And the last feature that I want to show, it is the extension members. Again, we have a new keyword extension, and with this keyword and this syntax, you can create extensions not in the type level. You can create extensions in the level of an instance, like a members of the class, right? And here I was trying to, put a simple example. For example, it is extension for any enumerable, right? And here I have extensions, just check that array is empty. And another one, it is it should work the same way as a link queue, but without using the link queue, right? Let's see. So here it is how it looks like when we're using is empty. It looks like a actual property of instance of list of integer, right? We just easily use it.
How did you implement this empty? Sorry, can you scroll down? Yeah, is empty. Okay, okay. I see.
And the filter this thing. So again, it looks like a method inside array, inside the type, right? Inside the instance of a type. And one more thing, actually it is not my idea. I found this, I think, in the Twitter or X. So we can override this vertical bar or pipe operator, right?
Okay.
And we can pipe kind of a couple of enumerable in a row. So in this situation, just will combine them. But of course, it depends from implementation. You can assign basically any operation to this vertical bar symbol.
And I think moreover, you can. Yeah, sorry, carry on.
And then moreover, it was just the initial thoughts about the initial thoughts about how we can use or a bit abuse this feature, and people always trying to convert C# to something more more functional, right? And they started to write a bunch of functional extensions methods like result, option, try, and so on. And
I'm scared with the amount of code that you just showed.
And combine them by this. Where is the file function? Yeah, functional extension demo. Pum, pum, pum. And again, re-implement this vertical bar operator for them. And now we can combine those functional extensions through the in this situation it plays role of pipe operator, right?
It's a nice feature if you want to block GitHub Copilot from reviewing your pull requests. It will crash right away.
I'm not sure it is useful at all. Worse to use link in this situation. And moreover, it doesn't support syntax, not syntax, IntelliSense. So you just need to type and guess that it will work finally. But trust me, it is working. So just a proof of concept that it's possible.
It's possible, yeah.
Yeah, technically, to fully convert C# into something functional, we just need to union type, and that's it. We can write code this way.
If we have
cases, you shouldn't assess if you could, you should assess if you should. Not on your code base.
So if we have folks on the call who are using F#, please share your thoughts, whether you are going to switch back to C# because of those frameworks that I think will be available soon because community is very active. Sorry, Arthur, I interrupted you.
No, it's like, just create extension on C# for Unix base guys who is working with CLI. Yes, in this case, it looks pretty similar.
Yeah.
So you don't need to learn something new. You can just use the separators. I mean, override.
Yeah.
Operators.
Okay, and a few words about the kind of tooling and libraries that was released in the C# 14. First of all, I want to mention about the DNX and .NET tool exec. So technically, both of them are supposed to do almost the same thing, but DNX is kind of more modern and a way to do this. What it does, it allows you to execute tools without installing it. So it is, as mentioned in this article, you can easily run it, and it will not be installed in your computer. It is useful in the CI/CD, for example, right? DNX, it is a new tool execution script, which is a part of .NET. .NET now. You don't need to type like a .NET DNX and so. Technically, it is just a CMD and the same folder as .NET. If you open it, DNX, it is just CMD file, which almost does nothing. It just grab all incoming arguments and pass it into .NET DNX. So just like a, alias or something like this. Just to use it in the more convenient way without calling DNS, right? Without calling it .NET DNS. What else? In the DNX, you can specify the version of the tool that you want to run. Somewhere here I have an example, DNX, and here you can specify the concrete version. If you will not specify the version, it will be using the latest one. So if you will specify something that was different, that is default, it will ask you that it want to download it. Of course, yes. For some reason it does. I just put a random version. I don't know. Doesn't matter. Looks like it is a wrong version. Anyway, you can specify the version of in the end of this the tooling. What else? Also interesting command, CLI schema. For example, if you need to know what is actually available as arguments for some CLI command, you can DNX, for example, and CLI schema it with. As a result, you will see all possible commands or chain of commands that's supported by this CLI tool.
How is it different from help?
Well, help, it is just predefined. Help, you need to explain it itself. In the help itself, it not necessarily includes everything that is supported. It is kind of more or less manually writing thing. This utility is kind of self-generated.
Okay.
Alex, quick
yeah.
ask. Can you please stop and start again your video because it seems like you are frozen.
Screen is still sharing, but video is
Yeah,
frozen.
screen is okay. Screen no needs to share the screen, just the video. Okay, now you. Okay. Okay.
Nice.
So you were able to speak without. So now it's good. You were able to speak without like moving your mouse. That's interesting. Did you do that?
You're always moving mouse.
Okay.
Okay. File-based app. Sorry, it looks like I scrolled. Why? So interesting feature about the CLI. So now you can build the kind of IntelliSense for CLI commands. For example, .NET, this command. So it will pre-build all possible completions for .NET CLI tool, right? I already executed and how it looks like.
Sorry,
Now you can...
Alexander, you're showing the browser right now.
Why? Wait a second, sorry, but I thought I selected this entire screen, not that.
No, you selected the entire screen, but we see the browser. Okay, so seems like Alexander is frozen. Connectivity.
It was red button, yeah, from his side.
Okay, so let's wait for like 1 more minute. Maybe Alexander will fix that, the connectivity, and get back to us. Otherwise, we will move on to the next topic. Okay. Yeah, so it seems like there is some internet connectivity issue. Yeah, so Volodya, what's next? I think we are going to talk about the
ASP.NET Core
ASP.NET
updates.
Core.
Yeah, for
okay.
sure.
Yeah, I think Alexander basically almost wrapped up all the major updates. So he shared C# language capabilities, then the biggest update of the .NET SDK, which is file-based apps. Yeah, kind of cool dates. Now let's see what we have in ASP.NET Core.
Yeah, kind of starting note is that ASP.NET Core is pretty mature and stable framework. In each release for past maybe 5 releases already, there are no major breaking changes or significant changes, only incremental improvements. In this release is not an exclusion. In .NET 10, there are a bunch of improvements to ASP.NET Core framework and ecosystem, and let's talk about a few of them. First one is they kind of finally made minimal API feature pair with controllers in regards of validation support. Because previously minimal API wasn't able to recognize your custom attributes or your implementation of a validatable object or standard attributes. Now you can opt into the behavior. You can enable validation for minimal API if you add validation method call on your startup. And then on all your endpoints, validation will start work automatically. So let's see how it works. In this case, it's a kind of minimal API project, which has OpenAPI support, Scalar UI, just to make it handy to show its behavior in browser, and few very kind of micro endpoints. First one to get users by ID, and on ID parameter of route, we applied validation attribute. Second endpoint is to create users, and on user record, there is a validation attribute on one of its properties. Next endpoint to create facilities, and facility is a model which implements a validatable object and is able to validate itself. And addresses is endpoint when we have a model which we expect, and this model is attributed with custom validation attribute, with custom validation implementation. And last but not least is endpoint, which shows that it's possible to opt out of this validation if you decide to enable it globally. So let's see how it looks like.
Volodya, to be honest, when I saw the release of the validation attributes working for minimal API, I was shocked. I thought they were working forever.
Yeah, Actually, if you don't talk that it was not supported, everyone will think that it's supported out of the box because it's something that everyone gets used to and expected to work out of the box. On the screen, you see Scholar UI is a third-party library which works with OpenAI definitions and is able to provide some nice and handy UI in browser to test your endpoints. So let's test our endpoints. It's in light theme currently.
I like Scholar more than Swagger. It is a little bit more like overloaded, but it has for every endpoint that you're going to trigger, you can specify the headers and etc. It's like very convenient. So you can add any headers. This is super cool.
Yeah, it's a new tool which Microsoft kind of recommends over Swagger starting from .NET 9, but
9,
I personally don't prefer it over Swagger. Swagger forever, I'd say. Okay, let's test first endpoint. It's get user by ID. Let's test it, and as we know, we applied validation to check if user ID is in a range. So let's check that it works. Let's apply. And by the way, because it's OpenAPI, it's kind of UI of OpenAPI, and by default, Aspen Core exposes a lot of OpenAPI metadata, so we can see that this parameter is required. And if you start typing some non-valid value, it even is able to suggest that, yeah, it's not valid, but we still can try. So let's try. And as you can see, we executed this endpoint, it returned validation failure and details of what was incorrect. This is when attribute applied to pass parameters. Let's check for user model. In this case, we expect that user age will be in range of 18 to 1000. Let's just pass age as 1 and see. And as you can see, it shows and it works for such model and such validation attribute over record. Next one is facility. For facility, we implemented interface to validate itself, and it expects that address will not be empty. Let's check that. Address is empty. Yeah, address cannot be empty, and custom message, which we provided in our implementation, is shown. Next one is addresses. For addresses, we applied a custom validation attribute and check that address line length is greater than 5. Let's check that. Yeah, because we applied validation attribute can only say if it was valid or not. So we see that it was not valid. Let's try to pass something valid. Yeah, it was valid. And last one, endpoint where we disabled validation. Parameter still required. We apply the same range attribute, but it should not fail. Yeah, you see, we still see metadata that there are some validation applied, but because we disabled validation through attribute, it works.
It's kind of misunderstanding between the validation and OpenAPI specification generation. It's interesting.
Yeah, because it's a method applied only on runtime, probably Aspen Core doesn't have enough information. But probably it makes sense to fill the issue and discuss it with team because it seems like something that they missed. It shouldn't be exposed in this case. Anyway, let's move on. So it was all about validation support for minimal API. I see a question in the chat related to Fluent validation. Fluent validation is a third-party framework, and it's not something that Microsoft maintains or supports out of the box. You have to install it, configure it, but it worked before and it works now just fine. You just need to configure it properly. So let's move on to next topic. Next topic is OpenAPI, something that we briefly touched in part 1, and in .NET 10 they made few improvements into built-in OpenAPI support, because in .NET 9 they added out-of-the-box support for OpenAPI document generation and customization and generation at build time. But support was pretty basic, I'd say, and there were some limitations. For .NET 10, they fixed a bunch of stuff and improved a lot, and also they added support for new OpenAPI specification version. It's OpenAPI 3.1. It's a major release with breaking changes. It's not compatible with 3.0, and it's enabled by default. So the only thing you need to do is to call add OpenAPI and map on API. By doing so, you will have OpenAPI JSON document exposed in particular predefined endpoint. In .NET 10, they added support for YAML format of such document. It is able to generate it because YAML is kind of JSON is kind of subset of YAML format or something like that. It's very weird, but it works, and we will check how it works. In this example, I used Swagger UI because I like it more.
Yeah, I saw. And you are not using top level statements as well, so you still this
I'm
old
fashioned person.
Yeah. Program main args.
Yeah. Let's see how it works. Let's start. Oops, I need to start.
Well, I like top level statements. I think like keeping in mind, just for me that's enough. Just keeping in mind that somewhere behind the scene there is a main method with all these arguments and etc.
So as you can see, we see Swagger UI. It shows OpenAPI specification versions that we exposed, and we see schema for our customer model, and we see example which we shown. And one of breaking changes is that starting from .NET 10, their integrated OpenAPI support works slightly differently. One of such changes is that they changed types that they use for customizations. Previously, it was something like OpenAPI object. Now you have to deal with JSON object. It's kind of framework provided type. And on this example, you can see that you can use raw JSON object, or you can just kind of use your typed version, your typed object, and just serialize it to node and assign. The example, it will work just fine, as you can see on UI right now. What I want to show is that currently we see OpenAPI document for this API, but also we can check, because we also expose YAML format, we can see the same document formatted in a YAML. It's slightly smaller in comparison with JSON, so if you need it for some reason, you have support for it out of the box. And another point which worth mentioning is that because in .NET 9, they enabled support for build time OpenAPI generation. In .NET 10, they expanded the support to build in new format. So let's compare these formats because there are some differences worth mentioning. So currently, it generates this document on build time by spinning up of test server and running your application to just hit this endpoint and generate, kind of extract JSON file and put into a particular folder. It puts into object folder. Currently, it's empty. Let's run build.
Smart trick. I am a little bit shocked how you passed arguments in your CS profile. That looks strange.
Yeah, and actually it's not possible to comment it using Visual Studio because it will break Visual Studio project file parser. It will force you to reload it. But it's something that they recommend in documentation.
I remember in the first .NET Core release, the first one, they tried to move out of XML shape to JSON shape. I still think that it was maybe not the worst idea. Of course, MS Build that time worked only with XML, but
On build output, we can see that we run this tool and generate a document in particular folder, and we can see that we have it here, an API, JSON file that we saw before. Let's copy it just to compare what's different. Let's go to OpenAPI tool and let's rerun it and generate OpenAPI 3.1. Well, for particular projects and systems, it's a very nice and handy feature to generate such definitions on build time and access them during CI, because you might need this OpenAPI definition to export to some tooling, like Azure API management, for example. It supports import of OpenAPI documents.
Or you can auto-generate the client using, for example, Project Kyoto from Microsoft or other.
So let's open newly generated file and let's open previously generated file. And let's compare them. As you can see, version changed. And because we use custom type, which schema, which has particular properties which changed between these versions, we see changes. For example, nullable types are specified slightly differently in newer version on the left. Also, it applies to numeric types and also to not just nullable kind of reference type, but nullable value types as UUID in this case. Everything else remains the same. Okay, I think that's it for this demo. Let's move on. Next topic is kind of hot topic nowadays, because servers and events is something that modern chats for GPTs and other LLMs is using actually in a browser to forward model output back to browser, back to your chat. They just keep connection and stream this data back to chat. And in .NET 10, they added support to read the data from client using HTTP client, as you can see in this example. But on .NET 10, they expanded the support and it's actually supported from server side as well. You can map particular endpoints and use typed results. It's supported for minimal API and for controllers. You have to return particular result, and this result should be of async enumerable. This async enumerable might be of string, for example, might be int, or might be some custom type. And here you need to implement custom logic to generate the data and stream back to client. As you can see, there are 3 endpoints like string item, JSON item, and just SSE item, which is int in this case. And we have some record, which we are going to serialize back to client. On client side, we use HTTP client and SSE parser to read this async enumerable stream and just output it into console as soon as it arrives, and we are going to read simultaneously from all 3 endpoints. So let's run it. Let's start. Okay.
So this is just an HTTP 2 feature, right? But we didn't have an API for that in .NET, native API, I mean. So now...
Yeah, it was supported with kind of custom code when we just write to output stream by hand in the span core 9, but currently it's supported kind of natively.
But it worked in gRPC. It worked, I mean, this server push worked in gRPC.
In gRPC slightly differently, because in server-side events are implemented on top of HTTP 1.1, while gRPC works on top of
okay, so server-side events work on... Well, I'm not sure if there is a strong reason to stick to HTTP 1 today.
Good question.
You're trying to make a multi-project run?
Yeah, it started actually. For some reason, Visual Studio didn't apply my
So
profile.
you didn't use Aspire.
Yeah, no, I not here. Probably we'll have another presenter with this Aspire topic. As we can see, there are output of all three streams writing simultaneously to console with different format when we stream JSON documents, when we stream just numbers, and when we stream strings. And it works. And it supports, because it's supported out of the box in ASP.NET Core framework, it supports all ASP.NET Core capabilities like logging, configuration, security, authorization, authentication, all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And looks a bit ugly because async enumerable always looks ugly, but still works like a charm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and yeah, if you're kind of AI builder and want to implement custom server for streaming of LLM output, you might use this capability. Let's move on. Last but not least, something that also kind of niche feature, but now it's supported more natively. It's JSON patch support. What is JSON patch? It's kind of standard on top of JSON documents, which defines particular operations that we can use on particular entities, and we define them using operation and pass and value parameters. As you can see in this case, there is a patch endpoint over users, and each user is just class with ID and other properties, and we're going to send patch document which is going to modify a bunch of properties in different ways. So let's make it as a startup. What's different in .NET 10 is because is what is previously we had the support but only using Newtonsoft integration package, but currently it's supported using system JSON. And if you want to eliminate Newtonsoft everywhere across your code base, it's a nice step forward.
Mm. So before .NET 10, basically, if you wanted JSON patch, you had to use the Newtonsoft.
Yes.
Okay.
Or third-party libraries for system JSON. There are a couple
back.
of them. Yeah.
So let's create, so user is created with particular values like true, 18, gender, and ID. So let's patch it. And the nice feature of JSON patch is that it not just allows you to apply changes to your entity, but it also allows you to check for any errors, because this operation might produce some errors, and you might run some logging or return it in result. Let's see how it works. So before applying, let's check what we have. Have everything in place. Let's patch it. We're going to change first name, drop last name, change age, change consent, and try to see, like to test if first name property contains Jane2 value after our changes. It returned 200. Data was modified as we wanted to modify, to rename, to drop last name, to increase age, to drop consent, and then we see errors because we tried to check if first name of expected value, it's not of expected value, so we see this error. So it's pretty handy. Sometimes you might want to implement such endpoint on your project. Another feature, kind of last but not least, is that JSON patch is very dangerous feature because it exposes your document and your structure for very wide range of modifications. And if you want to limit modifications that end user or client might apply to your document, you might run custom write and run custom validation. As you can see in this endpoint, before we are doing any applies, we check if we have more than 2 add operations. If we have more than 2, we return bad request. So let's see how it works. So in this case, we have 3 add operations. And it returns bad request because we try to do too much. It's a little bit maybe similar to binary serialization because end user might do a lot of things with your system, so it's up to you and as a developer and for your security team to prepare and apply some protection measures. Yeah, mostly that's all from my side. Thank you for attention.
Yeah, awesome, Volodya. Thank you so much. Yeah, so we didn't talk about Blazor, but the biggest features of Blazor are like resiliency improvements. What else we could mention? Better state transferring from server to the client, and a few others related to the default controls. Not sure if we have a lot of Blazor users.
Also, there are
the call.
some improvements around hot reload and especially hot reload in Visual Studio 2026, but then we see such issue in the repo, which is highly upvoted.
Yeah.
They posted in the chat.
So it's like always, each release they promise to improve that, like this hot reload will be the best hot reload in the world, and in reality, it doesn't work as smooth as you want it to be. Okay, Sasha, would you like to get back and just very quickly go through the file-based apps, because I think this is very nice topic, and it will be shown not very intentionally by me because I will talk about Aspire just quickly.
Yeah, okay. What is the file-based stuff? First of all, they was available in the pre-release version. Now they finally released and released with few enhancement. What is the file-based app? You just need to create a CS file, and that's it. Of course, it needs to have some code inside which needs to be executed. But technically, you need to create a CS proj file for your CS proj for your project, right? This is the example of it. In the file-based app, I created console demo file, right? How to run it? You need to use the CLI, or I installed the extension for Visual Studio Code, but technically they're just a code runner. I mean, you need to provide script which will be executed when you press the button, and it will execute the .NET Run script, .NET Run, and specify the file name which needs to be executed. It will download all packages mentioned in this file. For example, here I'm just as example using the concrete version of the console, colorful, right? And you'll see that it is printing this word. Also in this project, just an example, I just want to show you a feature which is available in the new version of System.json. It is a numeric ordering for string comparison. So it's very highly requested feature, and it use the real numeric value to compare string numbers when it orders them in the array. So, and in the result, you will see that it is actually print them correctly, because in some situation can print, in the past it can print 11 or 10 up to 8, right? What else? Of course, the file-based app can reference to existing project. This is the syntax. It can refer to specific SDK, right? And also it is possible to specify some CSproj file property or MS build property by this syntax. So what is not possible, it is debug them. So currently, Microsoft tooling does not support debugging of file-based app. You can't open them in the Visual Studio. You can't run them through the Visual Studio. I mean, pressing this run button. It is not possible. Only one tool that currently supports debugging. It is a LinkPad version 9, which is in the beta now. And of course, you need to. It is this feature debugging, I mean, not available in the free version of LinkPad, only in the paid version. I hope in the future they will enhance something, I don't know, Visual Studio Code at least, or Visual Studio to support debugging, because without it, I don't know, at least for me, it will not, it doesn't look so solid without debugging. Yeah, mainly that's it about this feature. So quickly.
So, Alexander, I think there is no way to debug, and that's totally fine. People who are doing scripting way of developing, they just don't know this word debug.
Probably. But
you just run, fail until it starts working somehow.
But I see the good feature, well, good future for this feature, because a lot of automation can be done by .NET this way, right? On CI, of course, especially.
And now instead of writing your bash scripts in Linux, you are able to do C# scripts in C#. Yeah, so potentially you can do everything. And then you can override these pipe operators and do these pipes things.
Yes.
Your
I like this feature. It should be cool in the future.
Yeah, something promising, really.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah, let's move on to Arthur, your favorite ones, AI.
Yes, let me share my screen.
It's not just Arthur, it's everyone's.
Everyone's,
favorite one.
Yes.
Can you see?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah, I created an article where I collect all talks from .NET conference related to AI. Just take a look, guys, to understand. Do you like this talk or not? Because you can see the name of the talk, what was really going on in the talk, and the link to YouTube. Because if you take a look, for instance, on this particular talk, building intelligent apps with .NET, based
not
on
clear
the
what is it about.
Based on the description, it's like Starship, but in real, the speaker showed something like image recognition functionality, generating description based on the image text, and sorting this image to appropriate category, and that's all. Yeah, nothing like Starship. And for next talk related to yes.
Yeah, I wanted to say that all my apps then were intelligent according to their description. They had images, descriptions for the images. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Also, some talks we can group AI talks on different categories like Visual Studio plus GitHub Copilot, MCP, and Microsoft framework, agent framework. And here in this article, in this talk, the speaker highlighted some functionality of Microsoft Agent Framework in terms of workflows. Also, I saw the talk related to Model Context Protocol. In particular, they highlighted official MCP SDK for C#. Also, some built-in MCP remote service with HTTP, streamable HTTP protocol rather than STDO when you run an MCP server on your local machine, but with streamable HTTP, you can just expose MCP server to anyone, and they can use via HTTP. Also, for me, if based on the presentation, something interesting was related to AI Foundry from Bruno Capana. He presented functionality when you can create AI avatar and you can make some interaction with this avatar, receive speech, etc. Also, from community, the speaker, if you take a look at this particular topic, the speaker presented how you can convert .NET tool to MCP server, and also he highlighted how you can use DNX for this purpose, a new tool. And, for instance, from this name, you can, for me, I was expecting something like converting my existing REST endpoints to MCP tools, but unfortunately, it's not true. In this talk, the speaker just created new MCP tools with the similar functionalities that you have in your REST endpoints, and that's all. It just expose this tool and use. Something for me was something exciting related to rethinking UX for AI application. How we can improve user experience when the user is dealing with AI. And today I'm going to show it, and also I'm going to show some Microsoft Agent Framework capability. If you take a look, what is Microsoft Agent Framework? It's this development kit that enable us to create first agents and the second workflows. You can find all appropriate information on Microsoft Norm. And let's go to the demo because it's, I believe, more interesting. Here, Happy Shop based on this Blazor. It's Blazor, yeah. It's not React or something else. Where you can see some strange names. It's, of course, fake generated products. You can click and see some more details about the product. Also, we have an orders tab, but we don't have any orders at the current moment. And of course, chat base. And here I'm going to show, I'm going to show first how we can create an agent. And agent is able to do different stuff like searching appropriate products based on your request, provide detailed information about specific product, and also make a purchase. Let's start with the first, like show me 3 cheapest laptops.
Do you have laptops in stock? I thought the bacon, metallic bacon.
And okay. we will try to see, because I asked about laptops, but I received something like generic steel cheese. Yeah, perfect laptop. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to improve user experience, because it's cool to see some text, but how about visualization? Yeah, what I would like to do. I added voice capability to this app.
Yeah.
Like, tell me more about the first one. Here's my hands, yeah? And I receive a modal window. The agent open a window for particular model window for particular product. I do not click anything. And I receive product description in good way, yeah? And rather than just text-based representation of it. Of course, in the chat, we have this one, like text representation. How I did it? First of all, it's a code snippet, yeah, for this stuff. First of all, we need to create chat client. In my case, I used Azure OpenAI chat client, but you can use any clients like AWS Bedrock, Olama, and etc. Because Microsoft Agent Framework is provider agnostic framework. The next stuff is related to adding some capabilities to your agent. In my case, the agent is able to find products based on the user request, show product details when we saw it with model window, and also the agent is able to make a purchase. And also here is the creation of the agent. The chat client has extension method for creating AI agent, and we just specify the name of the agent, some system instruction, and capabilities of this agent. And to run it, we just need to call run stream async or just run async method. And that's all. What next? Also, sometimes we need to perform sequence of actions to accomplish some stuff. For instance, to make a purchase, first of all, we need to add a product to the cart, create an order, and make a payment. And how we can, again, we can do it with workflows, a new capability from Microsoft Agent Framework. Again, I'm going to use voice input. I like it, make a purchase. And we receive, again, we receive some feedback from the agent that to accomplish this particular purchase flow, first of all, we need to add a product to the cart, create an order, and make a payment. And now everything is completed. What next? Okay, we can just close this window, or since we received this model, we can just go to the view orders page, view details, and oh, it's what we bought, generic steel cheese. And you know, it moves user experience with your AI application to the next level. First of all, you are able to use agent framework, but also we need to rethink about AI application, not just chat-based application. And it's Blazor. I like, because it's Blazor, it's possible to do not only on React. And that's all from my side. Thank you.
This is a very nice example, and it deserves just a dedicated event to go through it. Very nice.
Sorry, I do not show your code snippet for workflow for the second example. Okay. To achieve it, I created 3 executors. First executor is responsible for cart creation and adding product to the cart. I just need some internal process for it, but what you just need to create executor. The second executor is responsible for order creation, and then last is responsible for the payment. After that, you need to create a workflow. How you can do it? You can do it by workflow builder. First of all, we need to specify the first step in your workflow, and after that, you need to specify handoffs between your executors. Like, okay, as soon as the cart executor is completed its step, it delegates output from its step, like cart ID, to new executor to the order, because the order executor is expected receiving cart ID as input parameter, and etc. Order executor delegates work to the payment executor, and we are expecting the output from payment executor. And in our case, payment executor just returns order ID. So we just build this workflow, and to run it, we just need to call in process execution, run async workflow, or run streaming async. And as input parameter for this workflow, we put product IDs because we are expecting this in the first step related to cart. And that's all. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Basically, this agent workflow framework allows you to build like not as something gigantic, but just minor agent flows that just empower your application with particular functionality, like you've just shown, like adding things to the cart, searching, showing, etc. So it's something that is easy to develop and easy to plug in into existing application, right?
Yeah.
So this is the purpose. It's not just for building like extra large, very powerful AI backend. It's just something like minor, easily pluggable, and just working and improving the experience.
Yes. And if you worked with semantic kernel previously, it's pretty the same, because what Microsoft did, they combine semantic kernel plus autogen on top of the Microsoft extension AI library, and bring it together and say, okay, we just put the best from each framework and provide and expose to you. Just use it.
Yeah.
The best.
Just a glue between all these different frameworks.
Yes.
Okay. Right. So I think it's my turn. Just really quickly, what else we got with the .NET 10 release? We got Visual Studio 2026 release. If you download it and open it, you will immediately recognize kind of polished user interface, which I personally like more. It looks fresh and modern. It also comes with a bunch of built-in colored themes. And by the way, you can see that I opened the options window and it opened as a tab in tabs. It's not a model. I think this will be a direction by Visual Studio team to move all the dialogues into the just tabs, the separate tabs, which I also like more because all these model dialogues, I think, are a little bit outdated. So you have here color schemes. You can choose one of these fancy names. And yeah, so you can also have a separate color schema for your editor. So, okay, what else? If you go through the article where the Microsoft published the release about Visual Studio 2026, you will see, first of all, this is now published by Matt Christensen. It is kind of famous guy who produced a lot of Visual Studio extensions before. Now I think he's hired and he's a manager, product manager for the Visual Studio. What he wrote here is that it is, so you are getting blazing fast experience. So Microsoft tells us that it's faster. And from my personal perspective, it is, but not a 50% for sure. So there are a lot of user interface interactions that previously were frozen when you tried to open. I think Microsoft was able to unblock, unfreeze most of the UIs. Well, not most, but some, for sure some. And they started
to use async await properly. Finally.
Started to use async await properly, exactly. And like you should, well, you could expect some less glitches. Also, Microsoft swears that the .NET build started happening like faster. What I noticed when I built the application, sometimes I saw here like some message from the Visual Studio. I was able to use something like
build
fast
acceleration.
Build acceleration. For some reason, it's not here, but I saw it previously. So yeah, build acceleration. It's .NET. I think it's a must-build feature, and it's kind of more smarter way to build a large solution. So for large solution, probably you will notice some build improvements. But I personally didn't notice a significant improvements, maybe 10-15%, and only because I wanted to see that. Well, definitely better, definitely a little bit faster, but 50%, I think, is too optimistic. What else? Of course, it's AI capabilities built in Visual Studio. So, for example, if you have unit tests, now and they are failing, so now you can do the following. You can right-click on a failed test, and you can ask Visual Studio Copilot to debug the test and try to fix it. So I personally tried that several times and had a partial success with that feature. Sometimes it was able to fix, sometimes it wasn't. But what it actually does, it starts reading the tests, it starts trying to understand the code path, then it tries to it sets the breakpoints, it starts running the application to check the hypothesis that the Copilot produces. So you can see it sets some breakpoints. Now it runs the Visual Studio. And to be honest, the experience wasn't very smooth. Sometimes the debugger just exited with some errors. So, I mean, whether it is useful, I think yes. Whether it is reliable, no. But let's see if we get any kind of positive immediate results. I made an an error intentionally I made it. So I know where the error is, and let's see if it fixes the error or not. Yeah, so this is, by the way, eShop application. And the test is integration test. Yeah, okay, so this is what I got. So as you can see, it cannot exit from the test properly. However, seems like it is more than enough for the Copilot to fix. So let's see. Okay, proposed fix. And let's see what it proposed. Okay, so this is the correct fix actually. And yeah, seems like it was able, well, it definitely fixed, but I think it will try to run a few more times to make sure that this works, the fix works, and the test is not failing. Again, so you can see removing breakpoints and the final run to make sure that the fix was correct one. Again, this time it worked. Previously, when I tried, it failed. It wasn't able to recognize that this is an API test. And by the way, this is an API test powered by the .NET Aspire. So under the hood, it creates the necessary databases in container. It spins up the API, and it calls the API through the HTTP requests. So it's very high-level test. Okay. So I mean, we can probably move forward and discuss the next topics, but we can see that the fix in place, and it is correct one. So I changed from contains to equals. Okay. Right. So that was again. So test failed. I mean, the debugger attachment was failed. But yeah, so not the perfect experience, but at least it works somehow.
As related to test running on 2026, they added code coverage feature for Pro.
Yeah, sorry,
previously it was on Enterprise only.
Yeah, I didn't mention that, but you're right. Where is my? Okay, so it's under debug right now. It does something with my Visual Studio. Yes, they added not only the debugger, Copilot debugger, they also added the profiler capabilities. I think it will be the same experience, well, similar one. Also, they added, as you've mentioned, code coverage. I also heard some complaints. Well, it does some scary things. So again, previously it didn't do that when I tried. So again, the feature is not very smooth, I would say, but it exists. Okay, so what else I would like to talk about today, and probably this is the last topic. It's .NET Aspire, which was rebranded to just Aspire. So Microsoft intentionally removed .NET prefix, and here's why. Now this tool is positioned not only as a .NET tool, but as a tool which can be used by multiple programming languages, Java, Python, Go, whatever. So because I think Microsoft team who is working on the Aspire, they noticed that there is no similar tool in different programming languages. So they tried to make Aspire kind of platform agnostic thing and bring to more developers. So there is a dedicated website with the documentation now. It's aspire.dev, where you can see how to integrate different services and add this for and use with different technologies. What else? Now it comes as you can use it still in Visual Studio, but now you can also use it like as a separate command line utility, and you can download and install just a CLI tool, and use the Aspire commands to manage your Aspire project. Yeah, so let's see how it works in action. Here I have the terminal, and I have Aspire CLI installed, and I can run Aspire new, and it asks me for the template. So of course, as a .NET developer, I prefer to choose Blazor, but this time let's choose React and Fast API, which is a Python thing. Python example. Let's stick to 13th version. And by the way, so the current version now 13. The previous one I think was 9, now it's 13. Use dev local hosts. Okay, yes, let's use dev local hosts. Let's use Redis for caching. So now it generates for me the basic template, the application, which is the React application that consumes Python API, and the Python API use Redis for caching. So I can do the following. Well, first of all, because I've already tried this example and I know what that I need to do, I need to go to the Python example. For some reason, the Python packages were not restored by the Aspire itself. I think it's a kind of bug somewhere in the initial version. And I need to use UV sync command to synchronize all the packages used by the Python. However, I saw that in Aspire there is an attempt to restore, but for some reason it failed. If we have Python developers here, then maybe they will recognize my code. Then I can open it in a Visual Studio Code. And as you can see, okay, so I need to as you can see, this is the Python app. This is React app based on Vite framework. And this is just a file-based .NET Aspire application that references to the Aspire SDK. And it glue all together into a single run. So what else I can do? I can use again CLI to add some capabilities to the Aspire. I can use Aspire added, and I would like to add dev tunnels capability to my Aspire project. And as you can see, the CLI automatically finds the Aspire and the Aspire project, even if it's file-based. It also seeks for the integration that I wanted to add, and then it adds the package. So if I go back to Visual Studio, I can see now I have a reference to the NuGet package. And what I can do here, I can use add the div tunnels. With anonymous authentication and with reference content.
Don't you have C# DevTools extension installed, or is it just a
I do have it, just doesn't work. So sorry.
Nice.
It just doesn't work for me. And again, so the IntelliSense isn't correct. I just checked and I realized that the method is add dev tunnel with anonymous access with reference. Okay, so now I can go back to the I saved, and I can go back to the command line. Then
you don't specify frontend as a reference. You just say this reference rather than frontend.
Okay. Okay, yeah, sorry. This is incorrect one. Thank you, Arthur. Yeah. It should be like that. And again, Aspire run. And again, so the CLI just runs the Aspire project, and Aspire runs all the parts. It runs the front end, the back end, Redis cache. There is also a Visual Studio extension. I hasn't tried it yet. As you can see, as I specified to use dev locals, the domain name is more meaningful. In my case, it's not just localhost, it's dev localhost. So I can navigate to the Aspire dashboard, and so it asks me to authenticate because I'm using a dev tunnels. I can press it, and let's see. So the app is running. The front end is still waiting to its run. Okay, probably the API is here. So this is the Python API, and it just returns a weather forecast, and this is the UI, React based, and we can hit here refresh, switch between Fahrenheit and Celsius. So we can also go to the metrics, and for example, for the application, we can see the amount of responses made. So if I hit here refresh several times, I will see the increase of the request count. And if I go back here, I can see that the dev tunnels are working now. I can go to the dev tunnels, and so this is a Microsoft thing, and you can expose any application that is running locally to, let's say, to anyone else for the testing purposes. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to open the Teams, and I am going to
do those scripts.
Okay, yes, please do that. And here we go. So you can now access my React application powered by Python API, and I am going to track the increase of the requests. Okay, so people started hitting the application, and that means I was able to successfully expose the application using the dev tunnels. Okay, you are very active, guys. Yeah, so this is very handy, very useful tool, the dev tunnels and Aspire, of course. Some of my thoughts. So this rebrand that Microsoft did, and they tried to make it available for other technologies. I actually spoke to a few people from different programming worlds. I spoke to Python developers, and I showed the Aspire, showed everything. They were kind of excited, but I didn't feel like they will, after the conversation, they would try to use this tool. Seems like this problem of running complicated distributed workloads locally is not a problem, or at least this is somehow solved on their projects. What else? This feature that Microsoft also promotes is to use the Aspire for deployments as a deployment tool. I don't think it will be used by anyone, but what I think is very useful and underestimated by the Microsoft and community is the capabilities of Aspire to be a very handy tool for building integration tests. So for example, in this eShop container, as I've mentioned, this is an API test. It just creates the test host. Then using Aspire, we have all the databases necessary to run this API, and then I have integration test for the API. This is just amazing how easy it is to achieve. And I'm currently working on the integration test on one of my project, and there we have a very complicated legacy databases based on SQL database projects. Those database projects rely on different SQL features like full text search or CLR storage procedures. And using the .NET Aspire, I was able to, and custom Docker image, I was able to execute all to achieve the phone. So I can, just for the testing purpose, I can build the databases from scratch, establish all the necessary links between those three databases, and point the API to those testing databases with the appropriate data seed, and make an end-to-end API test. So I think this feature is very useful, but it's not enough. There is not enough information about such use case. However, a lot of advertisement to do the deployments using the Aspire, which, to be honest, very opinionated thing. Okay, I think we've already out of time for 8 minutes, but still better than I expected. So I guess that's all that we presented for today, unless we have some final words, some final thoughts. Guys, do you think that this release is a successful one?
Definitely. I think it's worth trying to in production. Maybe not as soon as possible, because there might be something of day one patch, but long term something that to look after, definitely.
Yeah.
Actually, on few of my projects, I already have a use case for even as small features as one-liner of use case trail in integration tests, just to make it run as real test server, for example. But this release is packed with such minor improvements everywhere.
Yeah, so we will probably upgrade to .NET 10 in January, because we would like to wait until the AWS will produce .NET 10 Lambda runtime, because we need to upgrade all the pipelines, all the application templates, and after that, I think we will be ready for .NET 10 upgrade.
Interesting fact is that kind of manager or the core developer of Amazon Lambda framework contacted Microsoft in .NET Runtime repo maybe almost months before release of .NET 10, and they found some issues with startup time, and Microsoft assigned several people to work on fixes to reduce startup time across the stack to meet requirements that Amazon have. Like, at least not regress, but improve. There were a bunch of improvements they weren't aware of before this contact.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, Artur, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a good release, and perhaps this release was less related to AI. It was related to AI, but for me, not like so highlighted. Like, main feature related to performance, that the .NET 10 is launched, etc. And it's good that we have more, technical, I would say, talks on this event, rather than just, hey, please use AI in everywhere.
Yeah. So, by the way, the fix is here, and now all tests are green. So the debugger powered by Claude Sonnet 4.5, which is kind of powerful, was able to find the issue and fix it.
Hopefully it didn't commit tests out.
Okay. And Alexander, did you like?
Yes, I do like. I like the number 10. The happy number, I suppose. It should be working fine.
Okay. So I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining. Please try .NET 10 release, share your thoughts. Do not forget to put some badges, to assign some badges to